What is gluten intolerance versus celiac disease? That is a fantastic question. You may have been realizing that your body doesn't just seem to jive with gluten anymore and may have been wondering, is it a gluten intolerance or could you possibly be dealing with celiac disease? If that sounds like you, then you have come to the right place. I'm here to answer that question in today's video, so let's dive right on in. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Shockley, Doctor of Cause Chiropractic, board certified in sports medicine, specialized in clinical nutrition. In this video, we're going to go over the details and the differences between gluten intolerance, celiac disease, and also gluten sensitivity. Then we'll discuss the only way to determine if you actually have a gluten intolerance versus celiac disease. And finally, I will be sharing with you the very first step for taking back control of your health, regardless on if you have the intolerance, sensitivity, or celiac disease. Let's dive right on in. What is gluten intolerance versus celiac disease? Let's talk about celiac disease first. This is actually an autoimmune type of a response that occurs in the small intestine. And what happens is when you consume gluten-containing foods, the immune system launches an attack against the gluten, but accidentally attacks some of your tissue in that small intestine in the process. Now, a gluten intolerance, also known as a non-celiac gluten sensitivity, is not very well researched or studied, or really well defined, I should say. It's neither an autoimmune type of a response where the body ends up attacking its own tissue. It's not an allergy either, where the body actually responds by producing antibodies. The diagnosis is generally made by ruling out other conditions, okay? There's really no specific biomarker or test to say that you have a gluten intolerance or a sensitivity. The only way to really determine this is if you've already tested for celiac disease or you already tested for a wheat allergy, and neither one of those have come up, but the body still seems to react to gluten, then you just remove it. And if it improves, well, then you can probably label yourself a non-celiac gluten intolerant person. Real quick, a difference between intolerance versus sensitivity, because they're used kind of interchangeably. What an intolerance is usually reserved for is somebody who can still have a pretty violent response when gluten gets in their system, but they're not celiac. Whereas sensitive means there's a response, but it's not something that you're doubled over in pain, you're in the bathroom, or you're at the ER, okay? Now, let's really quickly go over wheat allergy as well, something else to just provide more clarity for you. Now, gluten itself is one of the hundreds, believe it or not, of proteins that is found in wheat. An actual wheat allergy is an immune reaction to any one of those proteins. And this is an immune reaction where the body actually produces antibodies to those substances and sets off an immune response. Here's the thing, if you've been tested for a wheat allergy and you actually come back that you're allergic, you have to avoid all forms of wheat, not just gluten. Because remember, gluten is only one of the proteins that is found in wheat. Now, did you know that that was the difference between gluten intolerance, sensitivity, wheat allergy, and celiac disease? Have you heard of these different explanations? Let me know in the comments down below. And real quick too, if you're suspecting that you have any one of these, just comment what that is as well if you're comfortable. Perfect. What is the only sure way to know if you have celiac disease versus the wheat allergy versus a non-celiac gluten intolerance? Well, traditionally still, the gold standard approach for determining if somebody has celiac disease is to do a biopsy of the small intestine. Super invasive, not exactly fun, but it's the only surefire way because they need to examine what the lining of the small intestine actually looks like. Okay? There are companies out there, different labs, that have come up with antibody testing against gluten that can lend you some information about their potentially being a celiac disease, but those are not always accurate. You can get false positives and you can get false negatives. So hopefully with medical engineering and what we're doing, hopefully we can come up with a less invasive, more accurate, just blood test to tell us if somebody actually has celiac disease. Now, for a wheat allergy, there are different assays that can be done, like deep dives into all the different proteins that wheat breaks down into. In fact, there are several different labs. They won't necessarily test for every protein that wheat can break down to, but the most common ones, which there's still like 20, that they test to see, are you reactive to any of those? And this is generally done through blood as well. It's not your classic allergy test where they like scratch your skin, okay? This is done by testing different antibodies to different proteins that make up wheat itself. So that is another way to determine if you actually have a wheat allergy. Then as far as the intolerance goes, there aren't great tests out there. I mean, sensitivities, intolerances, you can still do food sensitivity testing, which is generally done through blood. There's a lot of differences in the different companies that have produced these. They're not always the most reliable, but if you were going to actually do a food sensitivity test, I would find a company that tests for several different immunoglobulins plus complements. That's not going to make any lick of sense, but just know there's different highway systems within the immune system. And if you're not testing every highway system for a potential reaction to gluten, then you might be missing it. And then complement is just another component of the immune system and how the body could respond there. So if you're going to do a food sensitivity test, which they're pricey and they're not always accurate, that would be the kind that I'd go after. Okay. Really, guys, at the end of the day, if you've put yourself through having a small intestine biopsy and you've done the wheat allergy testing and neither one of those have come back as a positive finding for you, and your body still doesn't dive with gluten, then I would just avoid it for now, okay? Truth be known, in America, a lot of people are actually reactive to gluten and they don't test for celiac or a wheat allergy at all. Part of it is because of the type of wheat or gluten-containing products that we have in America. I have many patients who respond poorly to gluten-containing products here, but if they travel, say to France or to South Africa, they can eat gluten-containing products there and not have any issue. The bottom line about this is not all gluten is created equally. There's thought process that ours is very genetically modified, and then also the amount of pesticide that is on our crops that we're in turn ingesting may be part of the big reason why people are having problems in this country. So just stay away from it. And we're going to get into how do you actually handle all of this, whether you're sensitive or intolerant or actually have celiac disease. But before I get into the first step for taking back control of your health, regardless of what any of these outcomes may be for you, I just want to remind you to click that subscribe button down below, turn the notifications on. I am producing videos and publishing them every Monday through Friday about gut health, brain health, immune health, you name it, anything and everything to help you achieve what I like to call total body mastery. And I don't want you to miss out. So just click the subscribe button down below and turn those notifications on. Awesome. What is the very first step for you to take, regardless on if you're celiac, you're gluten intolerant, sensitive, or you have a wheat allergy? It would be learning where all gluten and wheat are found. There are several foods that contain gluten or contain different wheats that are not just wheat. So the very first thing for you to do is find out the common and the hidden sources of these products so you can reduce your exposure. There are several different words that are used on labels and in products, different grain makeups that still contain gluten that you need to be avoiding. So I want to share what those are with you. And it's just a list. Obviously, we have wheat or like wheat flour, you'll see, okay? Barley, rye, wheat protein, wheat starch, bulgur, malt, couscous, farina, seitan, wheat germ oil, wheat germ extract. Those are some of the really, really common sources of exposure. But then there are many more, like we have to figure out, because gluten is used as a glue in many products, it can be hidden in many products. That's why you start seeing gluten-free labels on shampoos and conditioners or on ice cream. And it's not just that it wasn't cookie dough, so they called it gluten-free. It's because gluten has been found in so many other places. So what on earth are you going to do if you have no idea, besides the list that I just gave you, of what to avoid? Don't worry, I've got you. If you look in the description down below this video, click on it so it expands. There is a link in there for the 7-day gut repair meal plan. This is the best, it's gluten-free, of all form diet that will get you started on eating a diet that is free from these gluten and gluten-containing products that you're reacting to. This meal plan was designed for busy people in mind, or people who just really don't want to spend time in the kitchen, or maybe don't even like cooking. So there are planned overs in here. That way you're not having to cook every single meal, right? And then there's also a grocery list in there for you for convenience. And all of the recipes are safe for you to use if you're celiac, for sure. Whether it's wheat allergy or gluten intolerant too, but it's our celiac people who are extremely reactive to even like parts per million size of gluten particles. So these are totally safe for you to consume. They're super easy. They don't take many ingredients or much time to prepare them either. So just click the link in the description down below for the 7-day free gut repair meal plan, and that will get you started on the right path to living more comfortably and being healthier and happier all the days through. All right, guys, thanks so much for being here. We'll see you on the next episode. God bless.